In the stillness of early Monday morning, while the city stirred unaware, a secret raid was already underway. The target, a mansion nestled in the hills of Beverly, quiet, dignified, the kind of home you'd never question. Owned by Mrs. Janice Combs, 84 years old, mother of music mogul Sean Diddy Combs. But what federal agents uncovered wasn't about money. It wasn't about fame. It was what lay behind a steel door, buried beneath the earth, that made them pause. No drugs, no weapons. Instead, folders of names, names of children, invitations, and emails that chilled the blood. What began as a simple financial audit suddenly exploded into something else, something far darker. A potential child exploitation network, hiding in plain sight, tucked within the shadows of the entertainment world. So now, a new question emerges. Who is Diddy? A cultural icon, or the quiet architect of a machine America chose not to see? Seen the mansion, perched like a sculpture above the city, tucked between manicured hedges and decades of silence, had long been seen as a peaceful retreat. But behind the oak shelves of the library, agents noticed something strange. A crack at the floorboards, a gap between the bookshelves. Behind it, a hidden elevator, unregistered, unlisted on any of the 2006 architectural plans. It led them to a cold, locked vault, 20 centimeters of reinforced steel, guarded by a biometric scanner. But here's the twist. No one in the Combs family matched the fingerprint. So who did? And more importantly, why was a music empire matriarch guarding a vault built like a war bunker? The door opens. Inside, a chamber split into 3 zones: paper records, digital hardware, secured lockers, 9 folders, thick and color-coded, each labeled "Private, Do Not Remove." A binder, nearly 400 pages long, listing around 70 names, mostly children, ages 12 to 14. Each file came with photos, school records, and sometimes nothing under guardian contact. Just a line, or a black strike. One agent called it, quote, a menu, not a talent list. And it gets worse. Over 40% of the photos taken in the same white room. Black, floors, harsh lighting, like a casting call or an interrogation chamber. In a hidden safe nearby, agents found 30 ornate invitations. No names, no addresses, just titles: The Party of Light, Internal Casting, Night of Discovery. Many bore logos tied to the Hope AR Foundation, a charity once praised by Diddy himself as a place where kids could shine. But the real breaking point came with the emails. Dramatic pause. From an account linked to Diddy's known alias, Mr. Love 2020 e-Gmail. A message dated March 16, 2023, read, "Make sure they're obedient and not resistant. The newer ones are easier to manage. Don't pick anyone with family accompaniment. I'll send the gift." But traced to Pulsine Entertainment, a company Diddy had heavily invested in. From the tech zone, agents seized SSDs and USB drives. One labeled Panic. Even the on-site analyst couldn't finish viewing all the content. "I can't describe it," they wrote in their preliminary report, "but it's enough for federal prosecution immediately." So now, America asks itself a question it's never dared to voice aloud. What if the man we celebrated was the one orchestrating the silence? Not just an icon, but the keeper of secrets, buried under fame, money, and music. And what happens next depends on how deep the public is willing to dig. Because this was only the first steel door.
FBI found a tunnel this morning at the mansion of famous rapper Diddy in Los Angeles, Part 2. After receiving an anonymous tip from neighbors, agents rushed to the scene. During their search, they uncovered a tunnel beneath the carpet in Diddy's bedroom. Despite the family's pleas not to enter, the officers hesitated but ultimately decided to go in. The tunnel looked freshly dug, with wet dirt on the walls and trash scattered around. As they ventured deeper, the narrow space suddenly opened up to reveal 6 locked rooms. The agents couldn't access these rooms, and even more bizarrely, they found multiple intersections ahead in the tunnel. For safety, the agents called for backup and split up to investigate further. What they discovered was shocking. A tunnel connecting to the infamous Playboy Mansion, along with others leading to several Hollywood celebrities' homes. As the agents delved deeper, they quickly surrounded these residences.
Guys, they found underground tunnels at Diddy's homes. This was first brought up by Shadow of Ezra, where he talked about the underground tunnels in Diddy's luxurious Los Angeles mansion. It was an underwater swimming tunnel leading to a mysterious grotto reminiscent of an ancient and modern human use of caves. Now, this is all alleged, of course, but they say that this tunnel connects to the Playboy Mansion. You guys remember that? Hugh Hefner, the guy who lived with all those women in his mansion? There's no available evidence right now. However, reports are noting that Combs mansions do have a pool with an underwater swimming tunnel. They say it's not connected to the Playboy Mansion, but there is a reason why the Playboy Mansion keeps coming up. 10 years ago, they were building underground tunnels to the Playboy Mansion for people like Jack Nicholson for his birthday. So this way, they don't have to go through the outside, but go underground in secret to the Playboy Mansion to do God knows what. You can see the sketches here of these underground tunnels being built. They were working on it, and it was supposed to connect celebrities like Jack Nicholson, Warren Beatty, Michael Jackson, just to name a few. As reported by People magazine, these underground tunnels to the Playboy Mansion were sealed off in the 1980s. The question is...
The drives were sealed, carefully, quietly, and sent straight to Quantico. But the search didn't stop there. Inside a bedroom closet, sneaker boxes, Chanel bags, even an empty Rolex case. What did they hide? Cash, $320,000 of it, and stacked like bricks. And in a second smaller safe, 11 luxury watches, one of them, encrusted with diamonds, valued at over $220,000, and already on LAPD's radar. Reported stolen in a high-profile Hollywood Hills burglary back in 2021. Piece by piece, the mansion unraveled, not as a home, but as a holding cell for secrets. Jewelry from a string of elite thefts between 2019 and 2022, check. A jet lease, 18 months, signed by Janice Combs, paid through an art foundation based in Qatar. Also, yes. Preliminary tracing showed that same group transferred $3.8 million into shell subsidiaries of Bad Boy Entertainment. Official purpose: support for international youth performance programs. Unofficially, a paper trail that now looks like part of something bigger. Dr. Jordan Kessler, a criminal behavior specialist, reviewed the files. If what the FBI uncovered is real, and it appears to be, then this is no longer just a scandal. This is the opening chapter of a transnational operation using art as its cover. An operation built to exploit minors, backed by money, image, and influence. When evidence collection was done, agents sealed off the entire basement, and according to sources, it may take weeks to fully decrypt the drives. But what they saw in those first hours changed everything. This wasn't an accident. This was architecture. And so the investigation expanded, not just into what was found, but into who helped protect it. First, Janice Combs, the matriarch. She was escorted out of her home quietly. No resistance, no statements. Later, her legal team claimed she knew nothing. Nothing about the room, the files, or the elevator. But neighbors, they told a different story. One man, 3 doors down, said he saw flickering lights coming from beneath the house on multiple nights. Another recalled seeing black SUVs arrive between 2 and 3 a.m. strangers, not staff, not family. For years, her silence had seemed like dignity. Now, it felt like something else. Was she a victim of her own son's shadow empire, or the perfect decoy, the harmless-looking gatekeeper no one would suspect? Next, Justin Combs, the Golden Son. Within 2 hours of the raid, Justin called the family attorney, but that wasn't the only call. A source revealed Justin wiped his personal cloud storage early that same morning. One former FBI profiler said, "That's not something you do unless you know what's coming." Clean-cut, college-educated, no scandals, the model heir, and yet the cleanest image is often the best disguise. Then came the familiar names. Usher. His name appeared on an invitation to a private 2019 gathering. No charges, not yet, but a presence at a party. During the critical window, Ray J. He denied everything, but digital images showed him attending an event in 2021. "You don't indict people over photos," one agent said, "but you do ask questions." Cassie Ventura, once Diddy's longtime partner, now unexpectedly back in the frame. Recovered images placed her at multiple private events. Not recently, but recently enough. Was she part of the system? A bystander or something more? The FBI is watching closely. And then a twist. A former bodyguard known only as Red Echo stepped forward. "I stood outside that house for years," he said. "That wasn't just a mansion. That was a drop site. A place where things were left because they couldn't be seen." Red Echo worked for Diddy for nearly a decade. Now he's in federal witness protection. His knowledge, dates, guests, patterns. And suddenly, the web stopped being abstract, because what's truly terrifying isn't just what they found, it's how it all fit together, a system, deliberate, layered, camouflaged, not a scandal, not a bad decision, but a structure built over time. The FBI reclassified the case, not as individual misconduct, but as a hierarchical organization run like a modern-day mafia. Wearing the costume of music, art, and youth empowerment, at the center of it all, the parties, not the red carpet galas we're used to. These were different, private, invitation only, code-named, hidden from the world, each one tagged with an alphanumeric code. Every detail logged, guest lists, transport plans, even risk assessments in case they were exposed. One thing was always clear: the hierarchy. VIPs, investors, industry giants, organizers, Diddy's inner circle, and the performers, children, with no contracts, no guardians. They didn't stumble in. They were funneled. Narrator slows, voice lowers. It started with a foundation, the Tanya R. Foundation, 5 years old, supposedly nurturing minority youth in the arts, no performances, no public events, and funding anonymous. Now, its namesake, Tanya R., is gone. Vanished just days after the raid. Investigators believe she was the gatekeeper, bringing children in under the guise of casting calls. But this didn't stop at the US border. Emails and financial transfers revealed ties to foreign banks in the Middle East, the Caribbean. Officially, support for cultural exchange and youth performance programs. In truth, money was funneled to shell companies tied to Diddy's inner circle. This was international, it was masked in art, and it worked for years. For nearly 2 decades, Diddy stood as a symbol of triumph, a self-made mogul, an icon. But that image, that carefully built story, may have been his greatest shield. Lawsuits were ignored, whispers were drowned. Because when someone is powerful enough, truth takes a back seat. What we're seeing now is the cost of silence, not just from those in power, but from all of us. Because sometimes the most dangerous system is the one that hides behind music, money, and a smile. And now the question is, how many knew, and how many stayed quiet to keep the music playing? Evidence now suggests the unthinkable. Some of the parties, but the ones coded, concealed, and tightly controlled, included figures not just from entertainment, but finance and even politics. No names have been released publicly. Not yet. But multiple insider sources confirm the FBI holds a list. 12 names, 12 powerful individuals. If confirmed, that list could send shockwaves through Washington, because when you piece it all together, the youth recruitment, the secretive events, the foreign wire transfers, the non-profits with no public presence, the celebrities, the silence. It's not a theory anymore. It's a picture of a human exploitation and control network, perfectly hidden behind the lights of the entertainment industry. The most disturbing truth? It didn't survive on participation alone. It was protected, for years, by the silence of those we were taught to admire. If you've followed American pop culture for the past 25 years, you know the name Sean Diddy Combs. He was more than a producer. He was a symbol, a phoenix, rising from Harlem to Forbes covers, a cultural architect who turned beats into brands, success, wealth, power. But now all that glory casts a longer, darker shadow. Because the past? It didn't just leave a trail. It left clues, and we ignored them. 1999, Club New York, gunfire, 3 people injured. Diddy, then with Jennifer Lopez, arrested for illegal firearm possession. The case became a media circus. Then, just as quickly, it evaporated. Witnesses changed stories. Evidence disappeared. Diddy walked free. The headlines shifted to J-Lo's dress at the Grammys. But a re-examined FBI file now reveals something missed. A black SUV registered to one of Diddy's companies left the scene 20 minutes before police arrived. Inside, a metallic bag, never recovered, never explained. That report, once buried, is now reopened, not as an isolated incident, but as part of a pattern. 2018, Kim Porter, model, mother. Diddy's longtime partner, dead in her LA home. The cause? Pneumonia-induced respiratory failure. No autopsy controversy, no investigation, just an extravagant funeral, a tearful eulogy, and life moved on. But friends say Kim was planning to speak. She told her lawyer she wanted her custody agreement changed. She emailed about renegotiating old asset clauses from her contract with Diddy. And days before her death, she said 5 chilling words. I can't stay silent forever. And then, she was gone. Fast forward to 2023 and 2024, a wave of lawsuits. Multiple women, young artists, all telling a disturbingly similar story. Control, coercion, silence, disguised as mentorship. Cassie Ventura, Diddy's ex, one of the most public cases. She claimed her life was entirely controlled, finances, freedom, even her decisions. She tried to leave, but she couldn't. Diddy denied everything. The case settled, quickly, privately, silently. At the time, people assumed she was paid off. But now, her name appears in images found on confiscated hard drives, private parties, code-tagged invitations. Now, no one knows what's real and what's erased. Another lawsuit came from a former dancer. She described VIP events hosted by Diddy's companies, where celebrities, CEOs, and political donors mingled behind closed doors. Nobody said anything out loud, she recalled, but everyone knew. You don't survive in that circle by being loud. You survive by playing along. Several other lawsuits followed, filed in California, New York, all dismissed, withdrawn, not for being false, but for lack of evidence. Now the question is, was the evidence ever missing, or was it removed, buried, deleted, bought? The FBI now holds hundreds of devices, documents, and party logs. Everything that once seemed inconclusive is being re-examined, and the suspicion is growing. Did we mistake silence for innocence? Was Diddy not a star caught in isolated scandals, but an orchestrator, shielded by money, framed in fame, and protected by a system that rewards power, not truth? For over 2 decades, the E World celebrated Diddy as a mogul, a pioneer, an empire builder. But maybe that empire was built on something else entirely. The basement was just the beginning, and what lies beneath the surface might just rewrite everything we thought we knew about the industry that sells dreams, and the people paid to protect them. End screen, static text, ominous tone. Coming soon, The Silence Was the Brand. A documentary series investigating the web beneath the spotlight, not to determine whether crimes occurred. That much is already clear. The question now is how far it all goes and how deep the protection runs. Based on overlapping evidence, encrypted communications, and emerging witness testimony, the FBI is currently pursuing 5 core hypotheses. The mansion was a command node, not a storage site. Investigators no longer believe Janice Combs's mansion was simply a hiding place for sensitive materials. It was the nerve center, the equivalent of a corporate HQ in a criminal enterprise. Unlike typical stash houses, the basement featured military-grade encryption on all hard drives, isolated power systems, and disabled security cameras. A secure drop chute leading to an unregistered tunnel hatch, redundant safes, and analog backups. These are not the hallmarks of a passive location. They indicate coordination, tracking, and long-term planning. In fact, metadata from the confiscated drives showed event file creation timestamps dating back to 2013, suggesting the network has operated uninterrupted for over a decade, and not by one person. "This wasn't Diddy's private vault," said one agent. "This was a node, possibly one of several." Diddy was a public-facing operator, not the architect. The second, and perhaps most provocative, theory is this: Diddy wasn't running the system. He was running cover for it. A celebrity of unmatched visibility, with ties across the music, fashion, and political worlds, Diddy may have served as the perfect distraction. A high-profile lightning rod to absorb scrutiny while the real command operated in the dark. Encrypted email chains found in the mansion, partially decrypted, include exchanges between Diddy and an unidentified figure known only as SB. But what raised alarm was not the content, it was the tone. Deferential, almost fearful, according to one digital linguistics analyst. He wasn't giving instructions, he was taking them. The FBI is now cross-referencing regional and international communications logs to identify SB, believed to be either a funder, handler, or high-ranking member of a hidden network. And Diddy, in that model, is simply the face, not the fist. The operation involved international sex trafficking of minors. With increasing certainty, authorities believe the network's most severe function was coordinating international sex trafficking involving minors. This includes recruitment fronts disguised as youth arts organizations, travel records showing minors brought from abroad under visa exemptions, performance documentation with no permits or contracts, foreign financial transfers routed through non-profits and shell companies. What began as an investigation into fraud and digital contraband has now escalated into a multi-jurisdictional child exploitation case with possible ties to Qatar, the British Virgin Islands, Turks and Caicos, and one unnamed city in Eastern Europe. According to a DHS liaison assigned to the task force, this isn't just smuggling. This was branding, distribution, and control. It was franchised. 4. The network had institutional protection. This system did not survive in a vacuum. It thrived because it had cover, possibly from within institutions meant to stop it. Investigators are currently reviewing 14 cases dismissed or dropped between 2001 and 2023 involving Diddy or close associates, 7 sealed settlements involving abuse allegations, now unsealed via federal subpoena, multiple donations from Diddy's companies to mid-level political campaigns, many of whom later co-sponsored entertainment protection bills. One senior FBI analyst said, "Some of these judges, attorneys, and campaign donors may have just thought they were helping a music mogul. Others knew exactly what they were shielding." This expands the scope to not just celebrity complicity, but institutional infiltration. 5. There are other nodes, and this is just the beginning. Lastly, all indicators point to one chilling probability. The Combs mansion was not unique. It was a prototype. Data on the drives include GPS logs, facility blueprints, and encrypted travel manifests referencing other properties. A gated estate in Westchester County, NY, a ski lodge, registered under a false LLC in Gstaad, Switzerland. A converted private theatre in the UAE, each location is now under active federal investigation. The FBI believes the network may have replicated its system across continents, each site acting as a spoke in a global wheel, coordinated digitally, masked as art and celebrity events, and protected by the very culture that made Diddy famous. If this model holds, it redefines what celebrity means in the 21st century, no longer just individuals with fame, but branded shields for systems hiding in plain sight. And Diddy, whether victim, puppet, or co-architect, is no longer the story. He is just the thread that led us to the web. One of the most jarring developments in the investigation is also the most personal. Janice Combs, publicly known as a quiet, elegant matriarch, is no longer seen by authorities as an incidental homeowner. She is now, officially, a person of interest, the cover of calm. At 84 years old, Janice was widely respected, the dignified mother behind the mogul, rarely seen outside Sunday services or award ceremonies. But in the world of organized operations, the best front is the one no one thinks to check. Her ownership of the estate that housed military-grade encryption, party ledgers, foreign cash, and evidence tied to child exploitation is no longer considered coincidental. That mansion wasn't a gift, said one former investigator close to the case. It was a shield, a contract trail that leads to silence. What triggered suspicion wasn't just her name on the deed, it was the contracts she signed. Independent security teams were hired directly under Janice's name, bypassing any of Diddy's corporate entities. Several of these contractors, whose identities remain sealed, left the US just days before the FBI raid. Authorities now believe those weren't just bodyguards. They may have been custodians of the operation handlers trained in digital erasure, or individuals who knew too much and were extracted before indictments hit. The Eastward Movement, a second node. In the wake of the mansion raid, FBI cyber forensics uncovered emails referencing a mysterious relocation plan. The group has moved east, status stable. Cross-referencing digital maps and private jet logs, analysts believe at least one active site may now be operating out of Miami or upstate New York, locations previously linked to youth talent retreats funded by a Diddy-affiliated nonprofit. As a result, the Bureau is quietly auditing all real estate and charities tied to Diddy, his relatives, or former collaborators. The objective: stay quiet, stay ahead, erase nothing. Mr. A and the media blackout. Among the more chilling revelations from the emails is a name that now looms larger than Diddy himself. Mr. A. In an encrypted message retrieved from a hidden hard drive, one email reads, "Ensure the media group remains under control. Confirm that Mr. A is still aligned. The gift has been sent." Investigators are piecing together the possibility that Mr. A is a media executive, a political fixer, or a high-net-worth individual with the power to suppress stories before they reach daylight. If true, this may explain the systematic silencing of past allegations, the unusually fast dismissals of lawsuits, and the eerie media vacuum that surrounded Diddy for over 2 decades. "This isn't a sex scandal," one investigator noted. "It's a communications coup. Someone bought silence at scale. Beyond Diddy, a system unveiled. What makes this case more dangerous than anything in recent memory, even more than Epstein, is that it doesn't hinge on one man's behavior. It hinges on the existence of a replicable system, multi-tiered exploitation, cross-industry participation, and a culture of elite-level immunity. Some files date back to 2007, meaning this may have operated for over 15 years, not in secret but possibly in tacit plain sight. Pending charges and a delicate clock. The DOJ has confirmed that several potential federal charges are on the table. Operating a criminal enterprise, exploitation of minors, digital evidence tampering, international money laundering, witness intimidation, but no indictment has been filed yet, because the FBI knows once it becomes public, any remaining nodes will vanish. For now, a hotline open to former victims has received over 70 calls in 48 hours, some bringing first-hand accounts, others offering leads previously buried by fear. Chapter 7. A Nation Reacts. The dark side of fame. The fallout was immediate. When news of the basement raid broke, social media exploded. What surprised analysts was not the volume, but the tone. Unlike past celebrity scandals where opinion fractured, this time the public reaction was nearly unified. Outrage, grief, and a demand for accountability. Hashtags surged across platforms. Chanhat Files, an acronym for Hidden at the Diddy Files. Protect Our Kids. Dark Side of Fame. Where was the law? Artists, athletes, and former collaborators publicly severed ties. Fan pages shut down. Spotify playlists vanished overnight. Merchandise was pulled from shelves. One viral comment captured the disillusionment. My childhood was shaped by his music. Now it feels like those memories are destroyed. Posted beneath a viral Instagram post, was echoed thousands of times in different forms across TikTok, Twitter, Reddit, and YouTube. But this time, it wasn't just fans. Silence becomes statement. Without press releases, some celebrities made quiet, deliberate moves. Usher, long rumored to have attended private gatherings, unfollowed Diddy on all platforms. Mary J. Blige pulled out of a charity collaboration scheduled for the following month. Even 50 Cent, Diddy's longtime adversary, chose not to gloat, but to react with rare gravity. If what they found is real, this thing goes deeper than I ever thought. Re-examining the past in public. On forums like Reddit, hip-hop communities began doing what institutions never did, connecting the dots. A mega-thread titled Diddy, The Red Flags We Ignored, gained over 80,000 upvotes within a day. Users posted years-old interviews, cryptic tweets, and screenshots, dismissed at the time as jealousy or just industry stuff, now reframed under the light of the raid. Hyper-private after-parties with no phones allowed artists mysteriously leaving bad boy records and refusing to speak on-air moments where former collaborators appeared uneasy or guarded when discussing Diddy. One comment read, "Maybe we all chose not to see the truth. We let the spotlight blind us for too long." The survivors begin to speak. Carefully. Then something changed. A ripple began to emerge among younger artists, performers, and background crew, those who were in the room or just outside the doors. They didn't name Diddy, they didn't have to. A female dancer from a 2018 tour wrote, "There are memories I've buried for 5 years. Today I read the news and realized I'm not crazy." A former Bad Boy Records signee resurfaced an old video, once used to brand him ungrateful, where he refused to attend a private event. "Back then I thought I blew my chance. Now I know. I escaped." These are not yet full testimonies. They are tremors. But to investigators, and to the public, they may be the earliest signals of something far larger. A culture of coercion, a network of silence, a system where opportunity came with a price few understood until it was too late. A culture of coercion, a network of silence, a system where opportunity came with a price few understood until it was too late. In stark contrast to the rising flood of testimonies, media investigations, and mounting public outrage, Diddy's legal team responded with cold, procedural precision. Mr. Sean Combs categorically denies all allegations, his lawyer stated. This is part of a malicious media campaign intended to damage his personal reputation. Notably absent from the statement, any mention of the seized materials, the basement, or the encrypted archives. At Miami International Airport the following morning, a paparazzi camera caught a glimpse of Diddy. Dark glasses, tense jaw, no entourage. "I don't talk to the press." That was all he said. Inside the investigation, a system with tentacles. While the public speculated, the FBI intensified its efforts. One agent, speaking off record, admitted, "We've dealt with celebrities before. But this is different. This is a system, and it has tentacles, music, philanthropy, politics, even media." Children's rights groups responded swiftly. Children First, a national advocacy non-profit issued a bold statement. "We cannot let fame obscure justice, not anymore. Every collaborator tied to youth programs must be investigated." Even as mainstream outlets initially hesitated, leaning on phrases like alleged and unverified, the tide began to turn. CNN, NBC, and the New York Times confirmed they were preparing interviews with former staff. Independent journalists reported receiving leaked documents, internal memos, payment records, and now infamous guest lists that could implicate more than just the man at the center. Public mood. From shock to resolve, a real-time poll. On PollMe, with over 20,000 participants, revealed a decisive shift. 76% believe Diddy knew exactly what was going on. 9% believe he was set up. 15% were unsure, but demanded a broader investigation. The raid that began as a quiet financial inquiry at Janice Combs's home has now turned into the epicenter of a reckoning, one that spans industries, coasts, and years. This was never just one man. The question has shifted. No longer, did Diddy break the law? But instead, how long have we all been turning away? From the lawsuits that vanished, to the cryptic testimonies of artists silenced before they could speak, to the basement hidden beneath a mansion cloaked in maternal nostalgia, the signs were always there. We just didn't want to look. And now, a door has opened. The FBI's investigation is far from over. Encrypted drives remain locked. Aliases remain unconfirmed. More properties are under surveillance. Victims are still coming forward, over 70 in the first 48 hours alone. And in the shadows, whispers grow louder. This may not be the only system of its kind. Diddy may stand trial. He may fight back, with lawyers, power, and loyal defenders. But the image is already shattered. Not by rumor, not by jealousy, not by cancel culture, but by the truth. A truth that didn't come from the outside, but from within the very walls of the place he once called the safest place on earth. The beginning of the end, or the end of the beginning. This case, still unfolding, may do more than end one career. It might expose an entire ecosystem, one where fame conceals harm, wealth delays justice, and silence protects the powerful. We don't yet know how deep this goes, but we know this. The truth always finds its way into the light. No matter how long it's buried, no matter how many locks, no matter how many names it threatens, that light is now here. And what it reveals could force the American entertainment industry to finally confront its darkest inheritance.